we talk about the biggest football games of the weekend, the biggest college football games of the weekend. Let me be specific there. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to the Multiplicity Media YouTube channel. We're so happy you're here. And yeah, we got some big games to talk about today, and we're going to get into it. But first, everyone's sort of talking about this crazy situation, Bobby, with the UNLV quarterback who transferred to the school this year. And he's like, all right, well, you didn't pay me my NLV. I mean, excuse me, you didn't pay me my NIL money. So I'm out of here. And obviously, this guy, Matthew Sluka, he was, leading the team to a so far undefeated season. And he's redshirting and walking away from the Rebels, again, over the fact that he was not apparently given the NIL funds that he was promised. I read that the deal that he agreed upon was a handshake deal. It wasn't really, there wasn't anything in writing, which is probably part of the issue here. But let's kind of kick our show off with that discussion. Like, in your opinion, is this a bad look for Sluka or for UNLV?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a frustrating look for all parties involved, but primarily, in my opinion, actually the agent above all, for just accepting a verbal agreement rather than putting that in writing. That is utterly embarrassing, frankly. Um, but yeah, I mean, UNLV should do the right thing and pay their guys if that is truly the case. But also, Sluka shouldn't leave, just bail on the team, 4 games in. I understand, maintaining your red shirt, all of that. Um, but I mean, you went through an entire offseason, UNLV, your teammates went through an entire offseason grinding with you to try to get to a good place. You got through a really pretty tough non-conference, and now you're bailing on the team. I think that shows a bit of, you know, I would be frustrated if I was a UNLV teammate, and I would be dubious about adding him if I was, looking at, bringing him into my university, just because, hey, what if he bails 4 games in again? You just can't trust that. So it's a tough look all around. We don't know the full story 100%. It's very much a, you know, school said, he said situation. But yeah, just overall, the agent, massive, massive mistake there. That's just horrible.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, obviously the agent definitely looks crazy. The school, for not upholding their end of the bargain, or the school's NIL department, or whoever you want to blame. Um, I think you're right. Like, you hit it on the head. Like, all parties involved look pretty bad. I think it does suck that this student athlete was even put in the position to have to make this decision, because obviously you're off to a good start. UNLV football is not normally, a program that is doing well, and now you're off to a really good start. Quarterback's playing well, he's leading your team, and now he's like, okay, well, you know, I'm out of here because you couldn't give me what I was promising. It kind of just is funny because, well, it sucks for all the players who are excited and invested about the season, and now how do you get that morale back after all this? That's one side I think about, but then the other side I think about too is just like how insane the world of NIL is in college football, and with that being with that being the case, um, like, when are we going to put some regulations and some guardrails around this thing so that things like this don't happen? What is it
Yeah.
going to take for um, what is it going to take for that to happen? I think that's kind of the big question. I think we're seeing some of the issues already with there not being any real regulations around NAL, and I feel like there's going to be more things like this that will happen in the future. If I'm being honest.
I mean, they just need to cut to the chase and make them employees at this point.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
the collective system, I don't think makes a lot of sense. It needs to be 100% with the schools. You have an employment contract. That's what it is. You know, it need this, Wild West of being able to drop out whenever and leave whenever. You're basically an employee. You got to make them employees. The schools don't want to do it. I get it. But, until that happens, we're just going to keep having situations like this until the sport can just grow up and start to act like, an actual, you know, structured sport.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree. I could not agree with you more on that, Bobby. Seriously. Um, all right. Well, let's get to the biggest games of the weekend. We definitely have some interesting games to talk about this week. We're going to start in the Big 12 with uh, two teams that are still kind of in the race in the conference, but got slaughtered uh, last weekend by uh, some really good teams. But both teams are kind of trying to hang on, and this game is really going to say a lot about the directions of both teams this year. It's the Oklahoma State Cowboys in Manhattan, Kansas, to take on the K State Wildcats. Um, both teams are still in the top 25. Oklahoma State is ranked 20. K State's ranked 23rd. Kansas State is favored by 5. The total is 57.5. Bobby, which team do you trust more?
Look, I get it. That Kansas State performance last week was awful. Going to BYU, got slaughtered. It was just one of those right place, right, like just everything really aligned for BYU there. Avery Johnson looked horrible. I get it. That was ugly. Especially when you look at Oklahoma State and you look at the box score, you're like, oh, it looked kind of close. That was also a beat down, and they pulled it together at the end. I trust Kansas State more by quite a bit. I think Chris Kleiman's one of the best coaches in college football, probably very slept on. Mike Gundy is pretty damn good too, and especially whenever he's in a pinch, he is really good at wiggling out of that. But everything I've seen about Oklahoma State this year, their strength last year was Ollie Gordon and that running game, and it's totally gone. Gordon has not looked like a star whatsoever. He has not looked like one of the best running backs in the country. It's just shot. Alan Bowman looks exactly who we think he is. Not a great quarterback, just can do his best. And when you have to lean on him, it all kind of falls apart. So to me, K-State, even though, Avery Johnson, very young player, made some bad mistakes in Provo, a couple, special teams mishaps. I think they're just more steady on defense, more steady on offense. I like K-State overall to bounce back. And overall, you always see one bad K-State game, and then they figure it out. So, I don't know. I like them to right the ship here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Bobby, you have much more of a sense of the Big 12 than I do. I'm actually backing Oklahoma State to win this game, and I'll tell you why in a second. But I think it's so interesting because even if you look at some of the predictions, it's sort of like almost a 50-50 split. Like the ESPN projection, um, it's analytical, right? But like they've got Oklahoma State winning, but the split is like 53% Oklahoma State, 47% K State. And then if you're looking at it from a betting perspective, like overall, people are betting Kansas State money line right now. 94% of the bets are going for Kansas State. So it seems like more people are betting Kansas State, but in terms of like who's winning the game, I think that's still sort of like up in the air. Just looking at like the expert picks or whatever. Um, I I think it's very. I think there's a lot of interesting things at play here. You mentioned Ollie Gordon having a disappointing season so far. I think that's definitely something that's been really surprising, and sort of like an odd thing for them. I think it's something to look out for in this game because Kansas State is one of the best running teams in the country. So if Oklahoma State's not able to match that in this game, I think that can be an issue. You talked about the quarterback as well for Oklahoma State, Alan Bowman. The interesting thing, Bobby, is he actually like his best numbers are on the road. Like his away splits right now, he's completed 77% of his passes, which by far the best compared to any other situation. 5 touchdowns, 1 pick. So he seems to play better better when he's not in his home stadium, which is interesting, I think, for a college quarterback. But I think there's so many different dynamics here at play here. Yeah, go ahead. No,
I will say it should be noted Oklahoma State's one road game was at Tulsa, which was essentially a home game. But
yeah,
so, little Tulsa, they do their best, but that was an OSU home game, like significant, like 90 to 10 orange. It's nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. That I think that's important to note as well. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be an interesting situation because there is so much at stake in the conference, and these teams already do have big, conference losses ahead of them. So I don't think either one of these teams obviously wants to lose. I think it's just going to really come down to who can stop what. Like, is Kansas State's pass defense gonna show up? Are they going to be able to also stop Oklahoma State's running game, which hasn't really been that hard? Is Oklahoma State going to be able to stop the run for Kansas State? Are they going to be able to put pressure? Are they going to be able to put pressure on Avery Johnson? I think all of those things make this game super interesting. But yeah, I mean, it looks like we're split. I just feel like Oklahoma State to me, like I feel like there's something. I think they have with the experience they have, I think they're going to be able to pull this out or at least cover the 5. The over under here is 57.5, or the total is 57.5. I think that's also an interesting play. I don't know if I would necessarily touch that, but this definitely could be a game where a lot of points are scored, no matter who you are picking to win.
Yeah, it's going to be intriguing because I think both offenses rely on the strength of their running game. I just think that K-State's is far more dynamic, and Oklahoma State's run defense is not good. Micah Bernard for Utah last week ripped off like 182 yards on him, and DJ Giddens is one of the best backs in the country. So if you're one of those college football fantasy players, playing some daily fantasy, look at DJ Giddens. That is a really, really good ad right there. I think it'll be a big day for him, especially in the Little Apple. This game it's an 11 a.m. game, so Oklahoma State lucked out there. But the Wabash Cannonball, I think it'll be rolling pretty big for K-State here. So I'm going to go with the Wildcats straight up.
Yeah, for sure.
And the points. The points, whatever. I'm taking K-State.
Awesome. All right. I think, okay, yeah. I'll leave that alone. I was going to say, if maybe the better play then, if you like Oklahoma State, might just be Oklahoma State +5. That might be better than taking Oklahoma State straight up.
I'll say this.
That's just an aside. I don't really,
Yeah, I'll say this too. Oklahoma State has won 4 of the last 5 against K-State in this series. So, they've had a good track record against the Wildcats.
Right. And okay, yeah, they're only 2-2 against the spread. So yeah, I don't know. This is a tough one. Okay, anyway, we're gonna move on. That should be a good game. Like Bobby mentioned, this one will be kicking off at 11 Central, noon Eastern. So should be something interesting in the early window. For the 3:30 slot, Louisville, number 15, Louisville is going to play Notre Dame in at Notre Dame, who is ranked number 16. Notre Dame is currently favored by a touchdown. Total is 46.5 for that one. Who has the advantage in this game? Is it Notre Dame's defense or Louisville's offense?
I don't know what to think about either of these teams yet. I do know that Notre Dame feels pretty fraudulent after that just brutal loss to Northern Illinois. Louisville, I feel like, is on the come up. I really like Jeff Brom as a head coach, but I don't want to definitively say I think their offense is better. I think it's about as even of a matchup as it gets in that front. So, I mean, it's a coin toss, but I'm going to go with the unit that didn't lose to Northern Illinois. So I'm trending Louisville offense here.
Well, even in that game against Northern Illinois, with Notre Dame, like obviously a lot of things went wrong. I think Riley Leonard has definitely been like a part of the like this isn't maybe this isn't like what we thought we were gonna get. And maybe that is something that you have to take a look at when it came to that game, because he did throw 2 picks. But I mean, they only held Northern Illinois. That's a hard name to say, Northern Illinois. They only held them to 16 points. So it wasn't like, the defense got gashed or whatever. Like, it was a very low scoring game. Like, Notre Dame just played worse. And sometimes that happens. And so, I mean, you look across the board, Texas A&M held them to 13. Purdue held them to 7. Miami of Ohio held them to 3. So, I mean, Notre Dame's defense has done its job this year, to be honest with you. And I think Louisville has sort of been like a quiet, quietly good team this year. And maybe that's what they prefer, to be under the radar. They've been able to put up at least 30 points in every game, 31 against Georgia Tech, 49 against Jack State, 62 against Austin Peay. So it's both units, I think, have done their job up to this point. But in a game like this, these two teams are, somewhat familiar with each other. Playing at Notre Dame is not, an easy task by any stretch of the imagination. But I think it's going to kind of come down to which quarterback makes the least mistakes. But I think the advantage definitely goes to Notre Dame's defense because of how well they've played all year. And because it's a home game, you can control the tempo, get teams off the field, run the ball, make sure that, and if your quarterback doesn't beat you, I think I trust the defense to be able to show up and do their job. And a lot of that is because of the talent they have, but also Marcus Freeman. I think he really has a good he's a great coach, a great defensive coach, especially. So, I trust Notre Dame's defense a little bit more. And I'll just go ahead and say I think I have them winning this game too. I think, they know what's in front of them. They've slipped already, which sometimes, is good to keep you focused. Louisville can lose this game and, they still have a shot. Obviously, that they don't want her to lose, but I think Notre Dame has had the fear of God put in them by losing that game to Northern Illinois, and they're not going to lose another big game at home. I don't think this is going to be national stage type moment. I could be wrong. I mean, I would not be surprised if Louisville won this game, but I think the Fighting Irish pull it out.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Notre Dame wins this game. I think they find a way to wiggle out of this one. It's, I think, a really good matchup. This Louisville team has, like you said, has gone under the radar. I thought their win against Georgia Tech last week was really, really impressive, or last time out was really impressive. Tyler Shuck has been looking solid, the Texas Tech transfer. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I like Louisville to do enough to keep this within 7. This feels a little pushy, like it could be a push, but I don't know. Just still not sold on Notre Dame. I think partially because Northern Illinois turned around and lost to Buffalo. So I don't know, but I don't know. Notre Dame will trip eventually. I don't think it'll happen this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you make a great point there. I think something to look out for, and shout out to the sleepers previews. I was able to sort of, I kind of watched Brian Roth and Raleigh break this game down, and one thing they did bring up was Louisville's rush defense, and I think that one thing that Riley Leonard does bring to the table is his ability to make plays on the run, and kind of get out of trouble that way. And I think if Louisville, who has allowed um, about 87 rushing yards a game, like, not, oh my God, that's bad, but like, you know, that's a good bit. I think if Notre Dame kind of like plays into running the ball more, whether it be with Riley Leonard or whether it be with their running backs, and not rely on Riley Leonard to, necessarily play hero ball or whatever the case may be. I think that may be something to um, that may be something to look out for, and that might be the key to them winning this game. Notre Dame rushes for about 238, per game, so that might be something that helps them out, and kind of keeps um, keeps you from having to rely on Riley Leonard to put a bunch of points with Louisville to the air at least.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think running the ball will be, definitely an advantage for Notre Dame. Um, and I feel like that's something that Louisville can't do. They're not very good on the ground whatsoever. So if Notre Dame could make them one dimensional, keep them one dimensional, that's definitely an advantage for Marcus Freeman's guys.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yep, this game's 3:30 Eastern, Saturday on Peacock. Again, Notre Dame is favored by 7. Total is 46.5. I've got Notre Dame to win straight up. Bobby's got Louisville to cover this 7. And yeah, that'll be a super interesting game. I'm really looking forward to watching that one closely. Moving on to the 7:30 window, we got 2 big games being played at the same time. I think people are going to be kind of paying attention to one more than the other for sure. But
You don't say.
still 2 pretty good games. They made the show, so they definitely count as big games. Let's talk about the first one though. Illinois, number 19, hanging in there in the stacked Big Ten conference so far. They are a 19.5 underdog to Penn State in Penn State, who was number 9 by the AP ranking. 47.5 is the total. Is there any way that Illinois can pull off the upset, Bobby?
Am I crazy to say that I think they could do it? Because here's the thing is, Illinois, look, they're not flashy. You got Bielema and everything, but he is so hard nosed and finds a way to just go into tough environments. Like last week, they went into Lincoln, Nebraska, got a big win in Memorial Stadium, and I think Penn State has had moments. After the rain delay, they turned it on against West Virginia. They destroyed Kent State, which again, anyone should destroy Kent State. That's essentially the college football version of Bishop Sycamore. And then they struggled with Bowling Green, who, credit to Bowling Green, they gave A&M trouble, but it's Bowling Green. I think Illinois could get in here and make this kind of muck it up a little bit. I'm not fully sold on this Penn State team just yet. This is a great opportunity for Andy Koltenicky and crew to light it up, but I need to see it first. So I like Illinois to at least keep this thing close. They might be able to take the win. I'm not willing to take it that far, but I think this is going to be a bit more of a slugfest than the experts are saying.
So on DraftKings, 92% of bettors are taking Illinois to cover. 96% of bettors are taking Illinois to win. So the public loves Illinois to cover, and the public loves Illinois to win, which is,
oh my God,
tells you what people think about Penn State, which is hilarious to me. Illinois, by the way, is 3-1 versus the spread this year. But yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you, Bobby. I think Illinois is capable of pulling up the upset. I'm going to be a little bit cautious here, though, and say that they cover. I feel much more confident about that because this Penn State team is not a team that is necessarily, and to my recent memory, they've under James Franklin, like, never really been this type of team. But like, I feel like more times often than not, when they play these like ranked matchups, especially within the Big Ten, these games are a lot closer than they probably should be. And that could be coaching thing, a culture thing. I'm not sure what it is. I know there's some debate about Drew Aller and how good of a player that he is. But I really do think Illinois has what it takes defensively, especially to keep this game close. I know Penn State does a lot of great things. There's a lot of great things, offensively, especially with running the ball. But I mean, I think it's all going to be Illinois and their defense to keep this game close. I think they're been fantastic at generating turnovers and protecting the football. And those are really like the simple key things that keeps you in games. And so, yeah, like I said, I don't know if Illinois pulls off the upset. I would not be surprised if it happened, but covering 19.5, oh yeah, give me that all day.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like that a lot. I just because I think that the concern is that Penn State, feels like a team that can, be in a close game and then just break the doors open. But I don't know. I'm not there yet. I like Drew Aller. It's fine. I just think Illinois mucks this thing up. So we're on the same page here.
Yeah. All right. Final game we're going to discuss. Also in the 7:30 Eastern window, we got Georgia, number 2 team in the country, quietest number 2 team in the country I've seen in a while, perhaps only rivaled by the quietest number 3 team in the country, Ohio State. But we're not talking about them today. It's number 2 Georgia, who have to go to Tuscaloosa to face number 4 Alabama, coming off a big win against Wisconsin. The total in that game is 51.5. And Bobby, who has more pressure to win this game from the coaching position? Is it Kirby Smart or Kalen DeBoer?
This one's interesting. This is I think, a very, very good question, because I feel like Kirby, in a way, the throne's available. Saban's out. It's his to step up and take. They've been on an unbelievable regular season streak. And at the same time, I'm going to go with DeBoer because he hasn't done it yet. I mean, the expectations at Alabama are through the roof. And the second, there has to be just an enormous amount of anxiety within like Alabama fan circles and everything and donor circles of, did we get this guy right after Saban? I mean, you hear people freaking out, and obviously very irrational, but saying they should fire DeBoer after a bad performance against USF. And it just makes you think that if this is a bad loss at home, or if you get embarrassed, then immediately the doubts are there that you're the guy to carry on Saban's legacy, that, the empire is fully gone. There's nothing to pick up. And that sort of thing can really spiral a season and a program. And I don't know. I just think the tensions at Alabama, what they're used to, you have just zero leash. Whoever would be after Saban, zero leash. And he shouldn't be under that much pressure. This is his first year after all. But, I think you've got to, if not win, keep it close.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also agree with the point you made. Like, I don't think that Kalen DeBoer should be under this much pressure in his first year. In his first year as the head coach of the Crimson Tide, although the Crimson Tide are the number 14 in the country. And so there is expectations thrust upon them. But I gotta say that the pressure is on Kirby Smart in this game, and it's for the simple fact that he struggled to beat Nick Saban as the coach of Georgia. I think the record is 1-4 or 1-5. Not a good record. And to me, like, the outcome of this game is going to tell me, okay, was it Nick Saban that just outcoached you all those times? Or is Kirby Smart just like afraid of the logo? You know what I'm saying? Like what really is it? Like is it, are there some feelings associated with that where you just like, you just can't lock in as coach, or was the other guy just better than you? And if the other guy is just better than you, then that's fine. I mean, coaches, there are some coaching matchups that are just mismatches, and they're always mismatches. And for whatever reason, you never are able to get over on the guy. Like, I think about Bill Belichick versus Tony Dungy. Tony Dungy, Bill Belichick always outcoached Tony Dungy. Andy Reid so far has outcoached a lot of people, but seemingly has outcoached what's the dude's name? The Bills head coach. Can't think of it. Sean McDermott. Andy Reid outcoached Sean McDermott in a lot of situations. And so sometimes you just have those times where like, and it's so funny too, because it's usually like the former assistant thing, right? Like, McDermott was an assistant under Andy Reid. Now McDermott can't be Andy Reid, and Kirby Smart, assistant under Nick Saban. Kirby Smart not really able to beat Nick Saban consistently. So this will say a lot about what the dynamic really is with Georgia and Alabama, and with Kirby Smart and Alabama specifically. So to me, the pressure is more on Kirby Smart. I feel like if Alabama loses this game, if you're killing the board, you have a lot of like excuses, right? Like, well, technically Georgia's the better team. They're favored and they're higher ranked. And technically they have the better quarterback, right? Carson Beck is, seen as like a top NFL QB prospect. Jalen Milroe could be a Heisman guy, but not necessarily seen as like an NFL player. or a top NFL player at least. And it's your first year, right? Like, so I feel like for all those reasons, Kevin DeBoer, if he loses this game, it's kind of like, all right, like those are all those reasons, but the pressure to me for Georgia and for Kirby Smart is immense going into this game. I will say, in my opinion, Bobby, who I think can least afford to lose. If we're asking that question, the answer is Alabama. Just off of their schedule moving forward, being a little bit tougher, having to play at Tennessee, um, having to play Missouri, at LSU, at OU. Georgia, on the other hand, their schedule is a little bit easier than what Alabama's going to have to deal with. They're just looking at Texas, which is going to be a tough game. But you'd have to go to Texas, go to Ole Miss, and host Tennessee. So still a few hard games, but I think Alabama just has a couple more tougher ones, especially having to go to Tennessee, LSU, and OU. So
I was gonna say I kind of think Georgia's is a little tougher, just with how things have shaken out. Because I'm not a big believer in this Missouri team. I'm not a believer in this LSU team, and this OU team. As much as I love them, God bless them. We don't have a quarterback. The offense is broken by week 5, and who knows what will happen in November. You might see my ass out there trying to play left guard, so who knows at this point. But I don't know. I think both of these teams really need to win, and I'll go as far as to say this: whoever loses won't play in the SEC championship. I think this is almost like a semifinal for the SEC title.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right about that second point. Absolutely, for sure. And hold on.
Bless you.
Excuse me. It's a big sneeze. Thank you. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see for sure. But yes, Georgia is favored by just a measly 2 points. Total is 51.5. I'm taking Georgia to win this game. I think Kirby Smart. I think, to me, the issue with Saban. I think he really has a lot of motivation to win this game, to beat Alabama, to get the proverbial monkey off his back in terms of that rivalry. I think he's going to be very prepared for this game. I also think, and I haven't seen any updates on Carson Beck's health in a little while, but if Carson Beck is healthy, I think he's the better quarterback in this game. I think Georgia's the better team. I think their defense is going to be locked in. So for all those reasons, I like Georgia to take this one home.
This one's been tricky because I feel like at the start of the week, I've been pretty big on Alabama money line at home because I'm like, look, this is the first time they've been a home dog since 2007. It feels weird to pick against Alabama, and I've been on them. But the more and more I've heard from both sides, Kirby Smart sounding like a Terminator, like locked in, ready for the kill, and DeBoer kind of being a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit loose. I don't know. I know I have Alabama in the document, but I've been thinking about this for a while, and it's just like I don't think DeBoer knows what he's about to get himself into here. I think Kirby Smart and Georgia get the win. But I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be a close game. And it just feels weird, but I'm flipping my pick to Georgia just because I don't know. I think if they didn't have that scare to Kentucky, it'd be a little different. But I don't think DeBoer knows what he's up against here.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you have it. Yeah, and I think Georgia covers as well. I mean, I know 2 is not like a great number, but I would even go as far as to say Georgia gets it -2 as well. But that's it. That's our 4 biggest games of the weekend. Let's run through these rapid fire picks before we get to lock of the week. Oregon had a bye week after they finally got over the hump of, playing some bad team. Well, not bad teams, but playing some inferior opponents a little bit too close. They got a big win over the rival Oregon State, and now they will have to go to the Rose Bowl to play a UCLA team that hung on for 2.5 quarters in Baton Rouge. So maybe UCLA God is going to approach this game with a little bit more confidence as they host the Ducks. I think Oregon still gets the win though.
Yeah, Maxwell, I'm with you on that one. I think, with all due respect to, UCLA, who did hold on pretty all right. Oregon, I feel like they're locked in. They'll figure it out. If they continue to roll over from that big Civil War win against Oregon State, I think they're going to be more than fine. So I'm going to go with the Ducks here.
All right. Well, we discussed Utah a little bit earlier, got a big win against Oregon State without Cam Rising. They are the number 10 team in the country now, awarded by the AP, and they will host Arizona, who is 2-1. I like Utah to win this game, especially if Cam Rising plays. I'm not sure what his status is. I haven't checked, but I think Utah keeps rolling.
Max, you can check all you want. You can listen to whatever Whittingham says. You better not believe him because he will switch it up on you. You can't listen to him. This is a tight one if there is no Rising. But because we're picking straight up here, I'm gonna go Utah at home. Last time out, this was a blowout in Arizona's favor. Things are a little different. I could see this one being closer than that line, closer than that spread. But I'm gonna go with Utah at home. They look damn good.
Yeah, and the spread is 7.5. It actually
opened down to 7.
Yeah, it actually opened at 11.5, and it's down to 7.5. Yeah, that's super interesting. But yeah, I like Utah. We both like Utah. Okay, sneaky good game. Washington State, 4-0 in the Pac-12, which only has 2 teams, but it is what it is. 4-0. They will go and play Boise State at Boise State. Boise State's 2-1. Only loss coming in Oregon, but like we mentioned before, they played that Oregon team pretty tough. Boise State sneaks in, ranked number 25. They are favored by a touchdown against the Cougars. A high-scoring game is expected. The total is 65.5 in that one. I think Boise State right now looks like the group of 5 team that can, definitely have a shot at the playoff. I like how they've played so far. Washington State has been impressive this year, no doubt about that. But I like Boise State to pull off the dub.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a great game. Washington State has fought really, really hard this year. They've pulled out some just crazy wins. But it's Boise State on the blue, man. It's so hard to go against them in general. But when you have Ashton Jeanty, I can't not go with them in a straight pick 'em here. This one will be interesting. It's going to be a Pac-12 matchup here in the future, so we'll see how that pans out. But I wouldn't be surprised if Washington State wins this one. But I'm going to go safe here and go with Boise.
Yeah, and I'll say, man, I think it's cool how the Pac-12 is starting to get filled out. I was really happy to see that those teams joined the conference. I think as of yesterday, Utah State will be a Pac-12 team as well moving forward. So that's super cool for them. I really, I'm happy that that's going to be a thing because I think it's nice to have a Pac-12 and a Power 5 and all that jazz. So, or
I-
maybe not. Maybe
with all
not.
due respect,
Yeah.
this is really just kind of like having two Mountain West.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Okay. All right. Last game in the rapid fire, we got the Deion Sanders stimulus package. The UCF Knights um, are going to host the Colorado Buffaloes. The spread for that game opened at 12. It is now 14. So UCF favored by a couple touchdowns. A lot of people feel like Colorado really operates like a very emotional team. They get too high after wins, and they just don't respond well to losses. I I really, really believe that that's true, and I think until that they show that they can be a little bit more even keeled, I will have to go with UCF here. I think UCF is probably the better team as well, but I will also say that I do think that for any team, um, unless you're one of the elite teams, an emotional win like that, beating a team like Baylor off a Hail Mary, it's hard to move on, right? Especially for a team like this. So for all those reasons, I'm taking the Knights.
Yeah, I'm on UCF here as well. And very good points about Colorado, kind of not responding well to big wins. Dion, I believe I saw a video of him. He actually restarted practice because he didn't like the effort earlier this week. So they had to start from the jump. So it looks like Coach Prime is trying to adjust that attitude and everything. But Gus Malzahn and that UCF team is sneaky good in the Big 12. I like KJ Jefferson and them to get it done.
Yeah, speaking of KJ Jefferson, I was going to say this will be a very interesting quarterback matchup. I think Shedeur is better than KJ, but the way KJ plays is just so interesting to watch. It's some of the most backyard football you'll ever see, just without the finesse of a Cam Ward or a Shedeur for that matter. Just very a poor man's Shedeur Sanders, if you will. But that'll be a fun QB matchup for sure.
Yeah, they've just been pounding that rock, so I like the physicality too.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna go to lock of the week now. Bobby is pulling it ahead. Got 2 more points last week after picking Utah -2. I said it on the last show, but when I did the sleepers preview, shout out to Greg Waddell. On that show, I was like, okay, I feel like over 46.5 for Michigan USC is a good play. The line moved up a point, and I got a little bit. I got cold feet, and so I put in my lock as Michigan USC to be under what turned out to be 47.5. And I learned that I should have just went with my initial thought, which was that this would be an over, and it was. And that's largely due to the fact that USC simply could not stop the run, even though everyone in the stadium knew that that's what Michigan was going to do, especially on that last drive. So thank you, USC Trojans, for that. I was wrong on the under for that game. So that leaves the scoreboard at Bobby with a nice, comfortable lead. He's got 4 points. I got 1. I thought about just going for another 1-pointer to keep me at pace a little bit here, but I feel really strongly about Georgia going to Tuscaloosa and winning this game. I just think, for all the reasons I mentioned earlier, I think Kirby Smart is locked in. I think, obviously Georgia wants to win and understands what it means for the SEC, but I think experience, quarterback coaching, talent on the teams. I just think Georgia goes into Tuscaloosa and pulls off the win. So I'm locking that in.
Max, that is a wise move. We've been doing this long enough where you know that I basically always go for the 2 points every time. I keep the pedal on the gas even when there's no gas left in the tank. Which we've had years where I'm not good at these locks. So hopefully I don't revert to that form. I'm gonna go with Kansas State -5.5 here. I feel really optimistic about what Kleiman is doing. I know it was really bad last week, but I just believe they'll revert to form back at home. Oklahoma State hasn't solved their issues yet, especially with the running game. This K-State defense is good enough to grind down Ollie Gordon, and the Oklahoma State rushing defense is going to have a field day, or just an awful day against DJ Giddens. And Avery Johnson, for that matter, who's an excellent running quarterback. So I just think K-State just too much at home. It's going to be a bad spot for OSU, who will have to head back to Stillwater, back to the drawing board. And that's when they're dangerous, because Gundy will start feeling the heat. So,
all right. Well, there you go. Those are our locks. That's our show. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back here on Wednesday of next week to give you the next biggest games right here on the Multiplicity Media channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.